Is knitting a viable solution to the cost of living crisis? I guess we're gonna find out. Welcome back to another Crafter's Log. Today's gonna be a bit of a different format to usual. We'll still be catching up on my whips and my finishes and generally having a nice chat, but also I want to focus on plans for upcoming autumn and winter projects. There is a lot going on here at the moment, probably far too many plans to actually be achievable, but if you don't try, you don't succeed, right? If you're new here today, hello, my name is Michelle and I love to do all of the crafts, but especially the stitchy ones. So if you do too, why not hang around? Okay. I usually open these videos with a bit about our real life antics from the previous month. To be honest though, antics have been few and far between. We went shopping at Boys one day, I guess. Does that count? We did get to spend a long weekend dog sitting this lazy lump here. This is Kat. Myself and an ex got her and her sister as puppies, and now they live with him, but don't worry, we get to see them plenty. Kat comes to stay with us when her dad and her other mum go on holiday. Unfortunately, a few months ago she had a stroke, and is definitely not quite her old self. But I love having her over, and honestly, I will just take all the time with her I can get. Other than that, we've basically been shut-ins for this whole month, and the reasons for that will hopefully become clear later in the video. Alright, on to finishes, because yes, I have finished not one, but two things since we last spoke. You might recall last time I picked up two patterns from Winter Nightmare's new coffee shop, Night Flight in the Garden and Dainty Pumpkin. One of my August goals was to pick one and make a start on it, and nailed it! It was nice to have a quick little project to stitch on for a change, and no doubt I will stitch up more of their stuff in future, but that is going to have to wait because plans. I'd like to FFO this properly, maybe as a little cushion ornament with fancy trim and backing fabric, but yeah, say above. Plans. My other finish came about when Dave went away for a Saturday night and left me unsupervised to make as much mess of the house as I wanted to. Among many other things, I took the opportunity to play with the polymer clay set that I'd got for my birthday back in May. Now, let me tell you, polymer clay is way harder than it looks. And also please learn from my mistakes and wash your hands before attempting anything with it. I wanted to make some lemon earrings for whatever reason, and I did have some cheapy earring hooks, but I didn't have whatever you call that bit that goes into the top and has a little loop on it. So they're just kind of awkwardly stuck straight onto the hoops, but you know what? I don't care. It was a fun little project and I didn't burn the house down, and that is a win in my book. Now, works in progress. Does just my life in general count as a work in progress? I feel like it probably should, but we'll just stick to crafts this time round. Let's go fairly rapid fire then. The peppermint purple and pick stitch cells. No progress on either. Not a single stitch. I was supposed to be starting on the box borders on this one, but since about March or so, you've heard me claim repeatedly that I was definitely going to frog and restart Garden Cat by Satsuma Street. Well, you probably stopped believing that was ever going to happen, but joke's on you. This was restarted as part of the hashtag Satsuma Start Along over on Instagram, which myself and Mary Ann Johnson decided to do for ourselves and didn't really expect anyone else to join, to be honest. We ended up with about 6 of us though, and it was actually a really fun day. So fun in fact, and most of us are so obsessed with Satsuma Street patterns that we've decided A, the Satsuma Start Along is never going to end, and we're just going to use that hashtag for all of our Satsuma Street starts forevermore. And B, hashtag Satsuma Street Sundays are now also a thing. Okay, have I said Satsuma Street enough? I feel like I've probably said Satsuma Street enough. I do have to shout out one of the start alongers in particular though. Miss Casca from Crafting with Casca was extremely easy to talk into joining us literally the first day we met. And she's actually made a video about her project too. She's an inexperienced stitcher, so it was actually really interesting to watch how she approached everything. I'll link that video down in the description and you should definitely give it a look. Thank you to everyone who took and is still taking part, and special thank you of course to Mary Ann for helping me organise the whole thing. Oh, P.S. Mostly called for DMC, mystery 14 count Ada that I have no idea where it came from. I bought it 7 years ago, okay? Now, please try and contain your disappointment as you realise that Autumn Stories has seen way less progress than last time. 1,698 stitches to be exact, which brings me up to 12.68% complete. I thought you might even struggle to see the difference from last time, but actually I looked it up and this is looking a lot more filled in. So yeah, plodding along there. I didn't expect it to be, but this is kind of my go-to project when I just want to pick something up and mindlessly put a few stitches in. Full coverage! Who'd have thought it? This fabric is 28 count Ecru Even Weave DMC brand. I'm stitching 2/1/10 stitch and the pattern is Autumn Stories from Pain Free Crafts. Alright. prepare to be shocked. This month I have worked on no knitting, no crochet, and no sewing. What? So my last whip is going to annoy some of you, I think, but if you've been watching for a while, you know I consider my hobby to be making stuff rather than limiting it to just fibre crafts. I'm a hobbyist game developer and occasionally join game jams, which is where you're given a theme and a short time scale and you attempt to make a video game alongside a ton of other people doing the same thing and cheering each other along. It's very challenging but also a lot of fun. And this time of year is the Rainbow Jam, which is my favourite jam of all. So I'm working on this sort of hidden object / casual puzzle game. There's not a huge amount to see yet, but here's a look at what I've managed to make for level 1 with my very fledgling 3D modelling skills. The jam deadline is in about 5 days as of recording this, so wish me luck. Okay, finishes and whips done in record time. But before we move on to the big plans, I had a request to talk a little bit more about my approach to stitching autumn stories, so let's get that one back out. Full disclosure, my method here doesn't obey any rules and probably makes very little sense to anyone but me. But Sam, you did ask. So I wanted to try a full coverage piece, but I was intimidated not only by how difficult they looked, but also the cost of all the materials. This pattern has 45 colours in it, which at UK prices really adds up, and that's before you even think about the fabric. But then I saw Stitches by Shelby talking about her project Mini Contessa with Squid by Heaven and Earth Designs. She was working on 28 count fabric, but she was only doing half stitches, and this completely blew my mind. I didn't even know that's a thing that was allowed. Which, yeah, is ridiculous, but never mind. I did some maths and, of course, made a spreadsheet, and I realised I could use this even weave fabric I already had, plus I could buy just over half the floss and save a lot of money. So I gave it a go and I was sold immediately. This was my coverage test. You can see at the top I've done 2 strands and at the bottom I've done just 1. So I knew stitching 2/1 on this fabric was totally gonna work. It's so much faster than full cross for obvious reasons, and I really don't feel like I'm losing anything at all in terms of how it looks. So no brainer really. Obviously it does end up as a smaller finished piece than it would if I was using a lower count fabric, but I think it's going to be cute and I'm really excited for it. In terms of dealing with all the colours then and the confetti in a full coverage piece, there are so many methods for this, it would take probably an hour to go over them all. And also, this is the extent of my full coverage experience, so there are probably a lot of people in the comments way more qualified to advise on this than I am. First, I tried the typical 10 by 10 blocks of stitches and then parking. Parking being where you leave the thread in the corner of the next closest stitch, and of course if you're using Pattern Keeper you can mark which thread is parked where so you don't get confused. When you come to do the next block of stitches, you can just pick up your parked thread and carry on. I got bored of that pretty quickly and started stitching cross-country across one pattern page at a time before parking. And now I've graduated, or possibly regressed, depending who you ask, to cross-country across literally whatever space is inside the Q-snap, which is very satisfying, but I have to admit it's a lot less photogenic. You'll notice there's no gridding on this fabric. That's basically because I was nervous and I knew it would take me literal years to complete this and I didn't want to leave pen marks on the fabric for that long. Honestly, that's not been an issue for me at all, but it probably would be a little bit faster if I had gridded. I don't know, I'll try that on a smaller project sometime and see what I think. I don't know if any of that answered your question at all, Sam, but if not, feel free to pester me and I will attempt to explain what passes for a thought process. So, what's all this about autumn plans, eh? I don't know about you, but there's just something about this time of year that gets my planning urges flowing. And this year, there's an added impetus as well. I'm sure everyone is aware of the current cost of living crisis. And for various reasons, we've been hit particularly hard with the rising prices here in the UK. So in the year 2022, as middle-aged, fairly middle-class adults, myself and Dave found ourselves having an actual conversation about ways to cut down on heating this winter. Don't get me wrong, we're very lucky and we're in a pretty privileged position, so we could absorb the extra cost, but there's just something very objectionable to paying that much just to stay warm. You know? It is all incredibly depressing. But also, it's kind of an excuse to knit more as well. He feels the cold a lot less than I do, so if we keep the heating off, he'll probably be fine, while I'll be freezing to death with numb hands, sobbing in a ball. Not ideal. So we bought a load of yarn, and the plan is to make myself a few key pieces that I can wear through winter and keep toasty warm. I will say I considered a blanket, but at my kind of speed, by the time it was finished it would probably be next summer, so I'm focusing on quick easy wins instead. First up is the Justina jumper. The yarn I've chosen is Paintbox Wool Mix Aran in this gorgeous green. Ooh. Despite being a whole jumper, the pattern seems like a pretty quick one because the tension is quite loose and it should make for a good piece to pull on over a t-shirt or similar. Of course, the green also matches quite a lot of my capsule wardrobe, so win-win there. Then I'm going with the Shanty Pocket Shawl by one of my favourite crochet designers, Denny Shaw. I know at least one person is going to pop up in these comments and shout "no more shawls" at me. But look, that's a guideline, not a rule. And also, this isn't one of those flouncy impractical lacy numbers. This is warm and it has pockets. It's basically an honorary cardigan. So shush. For this one, I've gone with a nice dark grey. Again, this is Paintbox Yarns. This time it's just full on acrylic because I'm not made of money. That's kind of the whole point of the exercise. I managed to snag a 10-ball value pack of this from Lovecrafts, which was also heavily discounted in a sale on top of already being a value pack. So there should be plenty left over from the honorary cardigan to make a hat and maybe a small cowl or another pair of gloves or something to match. We'll see. I've chosen this hat pattern, but I can't pronounce either the pattern name or the designer's name, so apologies there. I must have got this pattern free at some point because I found it in my Ravelry library when I was going through and clearing things out to export and set up my Notion pattern library that I showed you a couple of weeks ago. And then I'll find another pattern for a cowl or maybe some gloves, depending what's left after that. Last but very much not least on my list is a pair of fingerless mitts. I spend my entire life sitting on my laptop and my hands will freeze, so I think fingerless mitts are a good kind of compromise to keep most of my hand warm but still let me type and generally be a nerd on the internet. Again, found lurking in my Ravelry library, this peekaboo mitts pattern seems like the perfect thing. I'm going to use this fancy blue yarn that is one of the M brands, Malabrigo, Madeline Tosh. I honestly couldn't say. I got it years ago. On one hand, the colour is a little weird for something I'm just going to be constantly wearing around the house, but on the other hand, when you're trying to layer up to stay warm in winter, even though you live in the future now and these problems are supposed to be solved, you might as well give yourself nice luxury soft gloves, right? So there we go. Is knitting a viable solution to the cost of living crisis? I guess we're going to find out. It has just started pouring down outside, so I'll try and edit the noise out, but no guarantees. One other knitting plan that I really need to get a move on with is my Halloween socks. It's already September. The last pair of socks took me 8 months. Yeah, I need to get a wriggle on. It's also weird because I've said a million times I normally have a sock project on the go at all times. Now, if we go somewhere in the car, I just kind of sit in the passenger seat and look out the window at the beautiful countryside. Madness. I've got the yarn wound up at least. This is Purple Pumpkin by Bellwether Yarns based in Leeds. And I have been holding on to it for almost exactly a year. I'm so excited to use this, it's such a cool colourway, but I've just literally not had time to sit down and find a pattern. Believe me, I'm more disappointed in myself than you are. On the cross-stitch side of things, I do have a plan there too. You know, despite not actually finding the time to work on my existing whips. Some of my long-time viewers might remember this amazing steampunk world map pattern that I started on last year. Well, for frankly ridiculous reasons, that one has been hibernating for almost a year at this point, and I think it's really time to get back on. Given everything else that's happening, you might think this is bad timing, but honestly, look at how autumny the colours are. Tell me you would be able to resist. Yeah, I didn't think so. The pattern is Steampunk World Map, available from circlecross.net. It used to be available from a shop called Circle Cross on Etsy, but the designer Natalia had some issues with that shop and had to open a new one, so I will link the new one in the description as well. This is such a cool pattern, I honestly can't believe I let it sit for so long, and you should see some of our other ones as well. Big shop recommend. Looking at last month's goal list then, there's only one thing that didn't get done, and that was to 3D print round 2 of my Needleminder Masters. This one kind of fell by the wayside because we've been really busy, the printer's been really busy, and also for a couple of weeks we thought we'd broken the printer, but it turns out we're just idiots. Anyway, I'll get round to it, but it's just not top priority at the moment. But if that's not top priority, what is? To answer that question, let's say hello to everyone's favourite dice man.
Hi folks, it's me, Dave the Dave. I'm wearing my special dice t-shirt, so that can mean only one thing. I'm here with some extra special dice news. First of all, thanks to all the watchers of Michelle's TV show for all the positive comments that you've put on previous videos about my boring old dice.
Excuse me. Our boring old dice.
Whatever. Anyway, your encouragement means a great deal, so thanks very much.
Aww.
Thank you.
That's nice.
Yeah. Secondly, the bit you've all been waiting for, onto the exciting dice news. Drum roll.
Oh no, I don't know how to do one of those.
Excellent, excellent drum rolling. Okay, so in the middle of an unprecedented, once-in-a-lifetime cost of living crisis, we've taken the decision to start selling our luxury, expensive handmade dice. What could possibly go wrong?
Yep, we're doing it. We are overworked and exhausted and frankly a little bit terrified.
Speaking of being terrified, the theme that we've chosen for our shop launch is Halloween! And the dice that we've chosen to launch with are two of our most popular sets, the Skull set and the Blood Splatter set. We'll be selling regular full sets of dice and also individual chonky dice for the discerning collector. You're laughing at me.
Sorry, I'm laughing at us.
I've been amiable.
Our house is full of tiny skulls. We got red paint everywhere, I think it's fair to say.
Everywhere.
And if these sets don't sell, well, all of our close friends know what they're getting for Christmas now. We're also going to list some of our one-off sets that we've made over the last year. Obviously, when we first started, the quality wasn't quite there, so those early ones are out of the running for sale. But also, it remains to be seen if I have a crisis and decide certain ones are too sentimental to get rid of.
So assuming that she doesn't go off the rails and decide to keep everything for herself, we'll also have some non-Halloween sets up for sale as well.
We're aiming to open shop on October the 1st, but that may or may not be realistic depending on how the next couple weeks go. So if you're interested in getting your hands on a set, or you just have a kind of morbid fascination with watching us crash and burn, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at LuckBringersDice and keep up to date with any changes to the plan. Okay, is there anything else you want to say before I boot you out?
No. Bye. Buy our dice!
Sometimes I think that guy is too into dice. Before we wrap up then, I just wanted to mention that as well as Instagram and very, very occasionally TikTok, you can also now follow me on Vero. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure what to make of it as a platform, but I'm on Instagram in order to meet cool new people and look at their crafts, and it seems like Instagram doesn't want me to do that anymore. So I'm honestly enjoying Vero's algorithm-free thing a lot. It is quite quiet there aren't a ton of crafters yet, and it takes actual effort to search out and find people to follow. But you never know, the more of us who join and hang around, the more it might take off. Right now, I'm basically posting the same stuff to Vero and Instagram, but since there's a lot less pressure to pigeonhole yourself over there, I'm thinking of branching out a bit. We'll see. I don't know. Follow me, don't follow me, try it, don't try it. I'm not actually trying to influence you to start a whole new social media account here, but I'm just putting it out there, you know? Do with this information what you will. Okay, this video was all over the place. Not much actual progress, but a lot of grand plans. I am trying not to bite off more than I can chew, but I'm also trying not to freeze to death over winter, so you know, there's gotta be a balance to be found in there somewhere. Alright, I'll be back soon with some more crafty nonsense, so in the meantime, have a brilliant rest of your day and keep making cool stuff. Bye!